Hi, welcome back to another episode of Chris Dyer's Creative Friends, the super awesome podcast show where me, your artist friend Chris Dyer, talks to all his beautiful creative friends. Today, I am in my hometown of St. Petersburg, Florida, where my friend Drew from Satsang is cruising through a beautiful tour, and we sat down for a couple hours to have a really deep, awesome conversation. So I hope you'll enjoy it. Bless.
Talks about passion between the women and the men. Chris Dyer and his creative friends, darling. Ooh, 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 ooh.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Paulina. All right, well, we'll get started. Hey, what's up, Drew? How you doing, man?
So good to see you.
Woo! Thank you so much for having me out here in your guest house in Safety Harbor in St. Pete, Florida. What are you doing around here?
We played Reggae Rise Up last night. This is the end of the first week of spring tour. So yeah, pretty fresh.
How was that festival?
It was epic. It was a really busy day. Like I said, we had our festival set, and then had to set up for the after party, and then I went and did Sugar Shack sessions, and then had to go back to the venue for the after party. So it was a busy day, but it was cool. I did get to see some friends.
It's a pretty big festival, huh?
Huge. They said 18,000 people on Saturday, and then they were guessing around 15,000 the other days.
Wow, that's crazy. I really enjoyed it. I'm like so stoked to live here and go to a festival that's happening like 15 minutes away from my house. That's like so nice with great performers. Do you do a lot of reggae festivals?
Yeah, you know, especially Reggae Rise Up. That crew, Live Nights Presents, I believe is the name of the company, but Vaughn, the owner of it, and his whole team, they've just always been huge supporters of what I do. And we're just homies. So yeah, we play this last year. I think we've done 2 or 3 Reggae Rise Ups, and I hope to continue to do them. I love that crew so much, and they do a really good job of bringing hip-hop artists in, and they kind of mix the palette up a little bit, you know?
That's awesome, man. I know you were busy, but did you get to catch any other performers?
I got to see a little bit of an MC named Sarak, who is an absolute monster if you ever get the opportunity to see her.
Yeah, nice. She was in white, right?
Yep.
She was in white. Yeah.
Always wears a brimmed hat and dreads. Yeah, she's pretty amazing.
That's awesome. Did you catch any of the murals?
Yes. Holy shit. Yeah.
Great, huh?
Amazing. Yeah, the Sugar Shack sessions were right next to the murals. So I drove by them like 3 times, and the second time I was like, yo, can we stop so I can actually check these out for a little bit? That Wiz Khalifa one was like...
Right. I was like in shock. I was like, whoa, like our local artists like this good, but then I dug in and they brought people from Japan and LA and like all these legends. It's like, wow, I'm really impressed by the visual art selection here.
Yeah, like I said, I think the thing that Vaughn and that whole crew does is it's not just about the music. I think we're kind of seeing that across the board. Like things are starting to say music and arts festival instead of just like music festival.
Right.
You know, and really curating a space and experience for the arts, which is cool. They go so hand in hand. It's like album artwork. It's like, you know, the relationship between visual artists and music artists. There's
Yeah, totally. I almost feel like in musical festivals, art's kind of like a secondary thing, but really it could be as important. You know, you don't need like, you know, thousands of people looking at you painting, but thousands of people do walk by that mural and stop by and have a moment with it. So
and they had live painters at both stages too, which was cool.
Oh yeah, right. You had Anya and Christopher Morphis and Morphis were live painting. So this is part of a tour you're doing.
Yep.
Spring
tour.
It's for a new album?
Yeah, I made an album. When did we release it? The first leg of the first chunk of tour was when I saw you. Was this fall. We did 6 weeks, and then this will be the last 3 weeks of the tour for this album cycle. But we've been everywhere.
The album's called followers.
Flowers from the fray.
And what does that mean?
I was kind of in this, had a really crazy, I always have crazy winters, man. But I had a kind of a crazy winter, couldn't come to agreement with my record label, and like things just seemingly kept going wrong, but it also kind of felt like it was all going wrong for a reason. So it felt like it was in the fray, and then in my head I was like, well, these songs are the flowers that I'm gathering while I'm in the fray.
What is a fray?
It's the abyss of chaos and, you know, yeah, being out in the abyss.
So it's like on point with the shit that we're all in humanity and see what grows out of the manure.
Yes, yeah, great, exactly.
The lotus flower.
Yes, or mushrooms probably.
Yeah. Comes from the mud and the dirt that we all have to like get out. So I want to get into your music. So first, Satsang. Are you Satsang or is the band Satsang?
It's blurry. I write all the songs, and I put the band together. But I've been doing a lot of solo stuff, which feels really good. And I keep saying that it's like the band shows are really fun. It's like the most fun that I can have. But the solo shows are starting to feel really deep and meaningful and special too. So, I mean, yeah, I own.
You could be Satsang just by yourself.
Yeah, I own everything, and yeah, write all of the songs and have produced everything thus far. But yeah, when we're touring, it's yeah, I would say the band is. If we're touring, it's the band. But you know.
When did you choose this name? Because from my understanding, Satsang is like what, Hindu church?
Yep, pretty much.
And I would say your music has Hindu vibes, but it's not Hindu music.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I was in Nepal. I was on a backpacking trip in Nepal, and like halfway through the trip was when I like decided like it's music. That's what I'm gonna do when I get home. Like that's the path that I'm gonna follow, and I'm going all in on it. And then as I was like almost back to Kathmandu, I started being like, well, what am I gonna call this? What am I gonna call it? And I met this kid from the Netherlands at this like outdoor climbing gym in Kathmandu, and he was like, well, later, man, if we're having Satsang, if you want to come. And I was like, I didn't know what that meant, but he wrote down on a piece of paper Satsang, and then this address, and gave it to me. And when I got back to my hotel in Kathmandu, the computer in the lobby, I googled Satsang, and then it said, to gather with intention to assimilate the truth. And I was like, boom, that's the name. That's what we're gonna call it.
And it's a cool sounding name.
Yeah, totally. So yeah, I picked it on that trip to Nepal. It just stuck, and I was like, it just fits. Like that's really what I want the shows to be, is, you know, not just playing music, but for, you know, people from all walks of life to gather and kind of suss it out and talk and commune, you know?
Right, like a spiritual gathering.
Yeah.
You know, focused around vibration in your case. And the music itself, I'm like, I was, you know, this morning like what kind of music is it Satsang? Like I know it's got some folk styles, but the singing's kind of reggae-ish.
Yeah.
And then you got a little bluegrass tones, but there's rock.
A little hip hop too. Yeah, I don't.
When you got to explain people, what do you say?
I try not. I always am just like I don't even know what comes next. You know, like a lot of it. I listen to so much music, and I go through these phases where like, you know, I have 2 months where I'm only listening to folk music and bluegrass and traditional music, and then like, you know, when I'm home and training, you know, like I had a fight this winter, so for months I was just listening to hip hop because I was training all of the time, and that's what I like to listen to when I'm training.
Fire up the masculine.
Yeah, and that beat, you know, and I'm a big fan of words, so hip hop is always kind of like a steady part of my diet because I'm such a fan of words. Yeah, I don't ever, like, when I'm writing a song, I don't ever, like, go, okay, I'm going to write a reggae song, or I want it to be like this, but with, like, a little bit of world music, you know, like, The Story of You had a lot of, like, Afro vibes, and I've never even really listened to Afro music. It just kind of, like, happened, and so, yeah, I just am, like, my tour manager, what he started saying last tour, and people were like, what kind of music is it? And it's like, a singer-songwriter with a really good band. So that's what we have been sticking with, but, yeah, I mean, I just... all across the board. I just love so many genres of music, you know?
That's awesome. Me too. I love mixtures. And your music, as the name, is a mixture of cultures. Now, from your point of view, What's the difference between cultural appreciation and what some people would call cultural appropriation?
Cool question. I think appropriation is more when you're like, I'm going to take this thing with the goal of using it to sell this. Where I think appreciation is, I'm authentically creating something and I have no idea what brushes are touching this canvas. You know, these are all very almost like a background of like, yeah, these things are subconsciously influencing me versus like, okay, well, I want to start a reggae band, so I need dreadlocks. We all need to wear black, gold, and green, and you know, like that's where it gets kind of fucky.
Unless that's how you want to.
Unless that's who you are, yeah, man. Right. Like I've met, yeah, I've met white dudes in reggae bands with dreads and shit like that that are, so like Mike Love.
Right.
That is the most.
He's very Rasta.
As fuck, you know, and now he's not even like a super strict Rasta, but when you watch that dude play, you're like, okay, dude, whatever that other spiritual Rasta realm is, that's what you're pulling from, you know. That is not an act. That is not like that's
true. Rasta is a livity, whatever that is.
Yes.
It's a vibration. It's a oneness.
He is that.
Transcends race, which is the true essence of the oneness message.
Yes.
Of that path, and really all paths. It's
yes.
like, let's go past our boundaries. But we live in such a political climate where like white males are not supposed to touch other things because it's almost like robbing, but it's like, but I love reggae. I had dreads for 21 years, and sometimes people, you're not supposed to have that. It's like, but I love, you know, reggae.
How about it's my hair, and I'm gonna wear my hair however I'd like, actually.
Right, and
because I'm a sentient human being, and this is how I want my hair to look.
Yeah, this is this is my expression, and dreads surpass. You know, Rasta culture. You can see it in Peru, etc. But say, yeah, we go back to like, hey, you're not supposed to do this. Like, here's some rules, and stay in your lane, stay in your box. And I get it to some degree when people are being disrespectful about grabbing cultures, but really, like, if it's out of love, let people express their love.
Yeah, I agree. I think the intention is the thing behind it. So it's like, and authenticity, if your intention is literally like, I'm just being me, I am not consciously taking anything to present it to make myself look like anything. This is who I am. You know what I mean? It's like we could say the same thing about anything. We could say the same thing about tattoos. You know, it's like, oh, well, what tribe are you from that says you're allowed to mark up your skin? It's like, well, no, I am a sentient human being, and this is how I decorate my meat suit. So
why not? Let's erase the walls and let's all become one.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing that's really troubling about yeah, like I like that you said rules. These like rules of engagement and being a human. I think that's like the antithesis for growth and unity. Is the more rules that we impose on each other and the more boxes that we put each other in, that leads to a really boring black and white world that resembles nothing that I want to be a part of. It's like, no, if we start trying to police expression, like what does that do to art? What does that do to culture? What does that do to anything, you know? Like
True. Yeah. Thank you for your reflections. I bring it up not because I want to support it, but because I really want to break it down so we can just be without fucking judgment.
Yes.
Enough of that shit. So back to your music, I would say it's a lot about the lyrics.
Yeah.
And it's honest, it's vulnerable, it's sensitive. It's the kind of lyrics that would be more associated with the feminine. You know?
Interesting, cool, yeah.
And you're like a badass masculine, you know, you're a fighter and everything, but you're talking about like, hey, I got wounds and I'm traumatized, and it almost like back to the boxes, me growing up in Latin America, you're not supposed to be a man that's sensitive and fragile or is honest about our fragility, and you do it.
Yeah.
In a nice, balanced way.
Thank you.
Please tell me about your journey to what you're doing.
I'm just in kind of a never-ending quest to understand myself, and I think if we if we pick one way that says, okay, well, I am a fighter and, you know, and am a stoic, so this is, this is the box that I'm going to put myself in. It's like you're denying the possibility of so much growth and understanding. So like, for me, it's all kind of one thing. Like, I always reference like the samurai culture. So for like someone to for someone to be taught how to use their sword, they also had to pick scribe or painting. They had to pick some soft art to balance learning how to use their sword. And I've always thought that that was a really cool kind of analogy, where it's like, I think there's a huge superpower in being vulnerable, because otherwise your masculinity is built on pebbles. It's not a strong foundation. It's like, I'm not in a rigorous defense of my masculinity. I know it's there. I test it all of the time. But I also am a human creature that's gone through heavy shit, that feels heavy things, that cries, that like, you know, it's just...
That's true confidence to me. Like true strength and confidence is to allow yourself to be quote unquote weak and vulnerable and sad and depressed and all the range of human emotions.
Yeah.
And that's important in music, because so many people feel that way, but it's not reflected in modern culture, at least.
Yeah.
So, you know, music like your own, which is, once again, like some people call it what, medicine music?
Yeah, yeah.
Because there's healing in it. Find
Yeah.
your self-expression.
And I think I feel like a strong responsibility of like, of wanting to be an example, you know, that like you can be all of these things, and it's really cool. And what happens when you know, lean in to being masculine and all that, but also keep that softness, man. Watch what happens to your relationship, particularly with your partner, when you know how to be vulnerable and soft and open. You know, it's like I see so many relationships that hit walls or fail and split because this pride thing says like, nope, I'm not opening. I won't do it. Like, I'm standing my ground. It's like, no, man, open up and see what happens, you know? Like, we'll crack you wide open. So I kind of, at this point also, it's not something I'm mindfully doing, but I'm aware that it exists, that I'm like trying to be an example of like, yeah, let's just be all of the things. It's all important to do.
Do you ever have a hard time being vulnerable in front of a large audience? Is you like, today I don't feel like putting my heart out there for everybody to observe?
Yeah. Sometimes before, like, yeah, there's days where I don't feel like playing. Never fails. Takes like 15 seconds into the first song. I'm like, oh yeah. I'm like fully here for it, you know?
Okay,
yeah.
nice.
Yeah, last night at the after party, I was like, we got done. It was my third set of the day. And I was like, we're not doing an encore tonight. And then everyone, one more song. And the boys are looking at me like, dude, it'd be a pretty dick move to just leave and go get on the bus right now.
I always wondered,
Yeah.
like, no, they always got this plan. Of course
Yeah.
they're gonna come and do an encore.
Yeah, usually it is planned, but last night I was like, I'm done singing for the day. I don't want to do this. And then we went out, and I was like, well, what are we gonna do? And Stefan was like, I Am. We didn't play I Am. And we went out, and there was...
which is one of your most popular songs.
It is our most popular song, yeah. So we went out, and I started playing it, and there was like, you know, there's probably like 500 people there last night, but there was like 10 people that I could see with the stage lighting that were fucking just bawling.
Wow.
And I immediately was like, how dare you, bro? How dare you deny them of this, you know? Like, you were gonna go get on the bus and what? Like, watch jujitsu videos on your phone? You know? Like, get the fuck out here.
How do you deal with an audience that cries by your own self-expression? Like, I'm sure there's gratitude and self-appreciation, like, oh wow, I did that. But also you can't let the ego get like, ooh, I'm so cool, I'm making people cry. And also like, damn, my role is bigger than I think, and I better fucking be on point. Like, it's a pressure too.
It is. So I had this really beautiful moment. So my wife's uncle, so my uncle-in-law, super deep cat, studied Buddhism for many years. Anyway, he was living in Seattle, and we had this sold-out show in Seattle, and it was the last show of tour. So I was like, I'm gonna go hang out by the merch booth. It's the last night of tour. I'm gonna meet anyone that wants to meet me. So there's this big line of people taking pictures, and there's always people that share like super crazy stories. but I kind of see him, and he works his way up, and he gives me a hug, and he said, hey, I'll call you next week. And then as we were separating, he grabbed my hands, and he said, the healing is real, the adoration is not. These people don't know you.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And then bounced. And I was like, boom. So that's always my mantra. The healing, the crying, that's real. That's happening in real time. But any sort of ego feeding, like adoration, none of those people actually know me.
Right.
They never understand the depths that is me. So
so both the hatred and the love
yes.
have to be put aside, and you can appreciate the love, and even the hate. You gotta be like, well, you don't know me, so you can't cut you so deep.
Yeah, the hate's a harder one.
Yeah.
Because you're like, you know, I think it's in our nature to be like, why don't you like me? I'm
Yeah.
actually a pretty good dude,
Yeah.
you know. But I, you know, another mantra of mine that I come back is that don't take advice from anyone that isn't where you'd want to be, and don't take criticism from people you wouldn't take advice from. So like, if I don't know somebody, you know, your criticism means nothing to me. Maybe if
maybe it's a technicality, like
yeah.
musical stuff, like, oh, he didn't tune his guitar.
Yeah, right.
You can be like, oh, actually,
yeah, you're right.
Perhaps you were right.
Yeah.
But not on the essence of your soul or your intentions or your vibration.
No, like I think the only thing musically that would be heartbreaking is if like, yeah, if like Trevor was like, yeah, man, I really didn't dig your last record. I'd be like, oh,
because
fuck,
he's a
man,
master
yeah,
himself.
because he's so good and I respect him and his music so much, and we're friends, you know. I just like, oh shit, you know. But yeah, it's
there's not a lot of masters out there.
No, and for me, the creative, you know, creating art is so subjective. It's like, you're one of the most amazing visual artists alive, and it's like, I'm sure there's people that don't like your shit. They're like, yeah, it's whatever, and it's like, yeah, well, let's see, you know.
It's different flavors for different
exactly.
people. Like, hey,
yeah.
I don't like every ice cream flavor.
Yeah,
you
I
know,
don't
fine.
understand the like painting of a blue square that's worth $4 million, but for somebody that's, you know, that's their shit. That's the mecca of art.
Apex of art.
Yeah.
How is being friends with Trevor Hall?
It's good. You know, it's hard for us to always be close, like it is with all my musician friends. You know, like Nathan from Ayater, the lead singer of Ayater, him and I are really tight. Him and I do a really good job of keeping in touch. You know, Trev and I, over the years, it's, you know, he has a baby, and but he's always been a really good rock for me. And if I ever want to be in touch, he's always there. Yeah, it's really inspiring, you know, to know someone personally, and then when they put out art, like I forget. Like, here's a cool story about Trev. You know, like he's such a bro. I mean, yes, I'm like, yeah, his music's amazing. But he's just a homie first, you know. But
right.
Reggae Rise Up in Vegas this fall, I hung back and watched his set, and I watched him leave his body during the set. Like, I watched the most, and I was standing on the side of the stage, like watching him swirl around with his guitar, and then he just like fell to his knees, and I just started crying, like, I love this for you so much. Like, I love that this is happening for you right now. Yeah.
He's of the Cali path, huh?
Yeah, so he is a pretty legit, not pretty legit, yeah, he is a Baba Ram Das, or Neem Karoli Baba devotee. Like, that's real.
Wow.
That's actually, it's not an appropriation, it's not a gimmick. That is actually his life, that is his path, that is, you know, from the chanting to, like, he's about it. It's his shit.
Yeah, and that's the Kali path?
I'm not
I
sure.
know he's down with Kali Ma,
Yeah.
which is the goddess of destruction and death.
Yeah.
So that's like a tricky path to take on, because you're calling in constant self-destruction in order to be recreated.
He's been through it. Yeah, and I think I actually had to check myself on that. You know, my best friend Brady runs Go Fast Don't Die, which is like a motorcycle lifestyle brand that's really based in stoicism, you know, and like memento mori, and this idea of like, you are going to die, so like, what till then, you know, and keeping that idea of your mortality at the forefront of your consciousness, so you're moving through life with this, like, this ends, so so what do you want to do while you're here, you know, in this amazing virtual reality, you know, what do you want to create while you're here? And I was getting like deep into it. Like, anytime I was on my motorcycle, I had my memento mori coin in the pocket, and yeah, a friend of mine,
It can really help you like appreciate each and every day because
Totally.
you're still alive.
Yes.
You didn't crash on your motorcycle.
Exactly.
Yeah, if that
but my
is meant
friend
to
brought
be.
in like, you better be careful carrying that fucking coin around all the time, homie. Like, you're talking about death an awful lot, man. Which is like, that's a good thing to meditate on, but you know, I feel like Tupac and Biggie, like those are prime examples. Like they were both talking about that
Ready
shit
to die.
all of Ready to Die. They were like talking about it all the time. It's like, well, be careful what you're fucking putting out there, dude.
But if you can learn to die while living, you are at least one step closer to liberation, and death is not a bad thing.
Right. You know, and I think to me that's always the importance of plant medicines, right? I think that's why ayahuasca is so powerful for people, is because they have these deaths of like, you know, when I drank the first night, I was like, when it was coming, I was struggling so hard and in this fetal position. I was certain like, yeah, bro, you're dying. And my friend whispered in my ear, like, every storm runs out of rain. And I was like, well, like, I guess if I'm gonna die, like, how do I want to die? Do I want to die in the fetal position like a little bitch? Or do I want to, like, die like a gangster, you know? So I, like, splayed myself out and was just like, let's roll then. Like, that's what we're doing? Okay, let's die then. And the minute that I just rolled onto my back and was like this, everything was just like, thank you. Now we can show you the good shit.
You surrendered.
Like, you surrendered.
Yeah.
You're not trying to fight me.
Right.
And now let's start this actual journey.
That's so beautiful and tricky at the medicine, because I've had moments like that where I was just like,
I wish there was an eject button.
Yeah. And it's just like, okay, I got a fear about this. I accept that I suck, and then I throw up. It's like, oh, okay, it's out.
Yeah, it's so weird, and I feel like really these plant medicine journeys are just a metaphor for life, where it's like as soon as you accept the bad and the icky and your insecurities, and you just say, okay, like, yes, I am, and again, that vulnerability piece, yes, I am insecure about that. Yes, this does hurt me. Yes, this does make me sad. It's like, well, shit will start to get pretty beautiful when you just acknowledge what you're actually
just own
feeling and own it. Yeah.
I'm a perfect human being.
Yes.
This is what was meant to be, and I don't have to throw shit on myself on top of it for not being some perfection that doesnly exist.
Yeah, and it's, for me, I always just kind of leave, the reason that psychedelics have always been kind of crucial for me, and I use them so sporadically now, that it's like, I usually get enough notes to last a while.
Right.
You know, of like, oh, am I doing that thing again? You know, the thing that almost fucking felt like it was gonna surround me with vines and pull me into the ground last time. Okay, well, I don't want to do that, because when I circle back next time, it'd be cool if those vines didn't grab me. So like, I'm gonna make a mindful effort to not give into this weakness that haunts me.
And you're talking about how you're acting on sober life.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Because that's where the true work is done.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's like, you know, whatever. I feel like psychedelics are just a mirror, and it just takes away all of the things and just holds up a mirror for you. So like, Greg always says, like, ayahuasca isn't going to give you a good or bad experience. It's going to give you the experience you need. And I think if you're doing it right, you know, you should have plenty to sift through and be working on. Like, you should have a pretty solid stack of notes when after that mirror's held up to you of like, okay, well, this is really fucking me up right now, and I'd like it to not fuck me up again.
Does the medicine come out for your lyrics, or the things that the medicine teaches you? Like, have you ever done a song to big up Mother Ayahuasca in a subtle way, or?
I'm trying to think of a song. Yeah, I throw little things in there from psychedelic journeys.
But no way you would know other than you.
No, I don't think so. Yeah, lyrics are so weird for me, man, because like when I write, I'm never like working on a song. It happens like, and if it doesn't happen like that, then I abandon it, and I'm like,
so you're channeling.
Yeah, that's what I guess. Yes.
What and who are you channeling?
I don't know.
Like your higher self, the Most High, the spirits that you're calling through, your guides?
I think it's got to be an amalgamation of all of them, because when I write, like I said, dude, it happens so fast. I don't have a single song that was like, okay, I write this here and then I'll work on this later. It's like, no, I find something on the guitar and then it just like comes. It's just, and it happens just like that. And if it doesn't happen like that, then
So it's not like, oh, I want to do song about how I get very hot on Sundays.
Yeah,
and
no.
It's like, what lyrics would fit to ours? It's more
Yeah.
like you're taking dictation from your inner voice.
Yeah. Yeah, very rarely, like I might write something really fast and then kind of edit it, be like, oh, I'm gonna change this word and this word. You know, like when I'm playing it, be like, oh, this word would fit a little better.
So it's almost like you got no, sure, you got some choice, but you got less control over what comes through.
Yeah, I have no idea. That's why I say, you know, when someone's like, oh, are you working on music? I'm like, always. Like, well, what's it gonna be like? I'm like, I don't know yet, you know? The big struggle for me is always, or was for me, now I've like completely abandoned trying to control it, is like having an album that's like, well, there's like 5 genres of music on this album, you know, and being like, well, who's gonna fuck with this? Because one thing, like for us, like when we're on tour, if we say have 304 pre-sold tickets, we're probably gonna do like 310 people, because like we were talking about earlier, like when someone's like, oh, I'm going to a show tonight, it's like, well, what kind of music is it? They're like, all of it. You know, I don't know, where it's like if you're a bluegrass band or a reggae band, someone can say, I'm going to a reggae concert.
Right.
Someone goes, I like reggae, I'll come, you know.
Right.
But I've had conversations with friends of mine in reggae bands that are like, I would trade lives with, that are killing it, you know, that are selling way more tickets than me, that are like, I'm so envious of you because you've set up a thing. You could do whatever the fuck you want to do. If I do anything but reggae, people are going to be like, what the fuck are you trying to do?
Their boxes and their walls are too thick.
Yep.
And they don't dare to break it, because they could break it too. They could be like, hey, sorry, next album.
This is what I'm doing.
This is what I'm doing, and if it doesn't vibe, sorry, but I gotta express myself as an artist.
Yes.
Well, that's great that you're allowed. You're allowed to do anything, but like you can allow yourself to do that. What about political subject matters in your songs? I know like there's the song "Speak Up" that you did with Wookie Foot. But in general, even though I'm sure you got points of views about the world, you don't feel like expressing that, or that's probably not what comes through you.
Early on, it was like a really heavy thing for me.
Okay.
I wrote a lot of like pretty political shit early on, and then this album Culture that I made in 2018, it was right after Trump was elected. So I don't remember what year we made it, but Culture was kind of my political album. I was like, yeah, if you listen to that album, especially the intro track, Will Stand, like I got super political and was just like, I made it for me really, to be like, I was just thinking of my kids as adults being like, man, what was that like? What was that like? You know, what were your thoughts on all of that? And being able to just be like, boom.
And what were you doing to bring a better world for me?
Yeah.
What were you talking in that album? What's the subject matters? What do you speak up about?
Yeah, it was a crazy time, right? Because Trump was elected. Standing Rock was happening. Yeah, it just seemed like there was a fucking oil spill every week. Like, the political unrest, and really it was just this like level of uncertainty with everyone, you know, that was kind of based on this, the Republican side, as it were, was like, well, what the fuck are these guys gonna do?
Right.
You know, and then we saw 2020 where that ball fucking crashed all the way to the left, and then I was like, it was too much. I was like, I can't touch this. Like when COVID was happening and BLM was happening.
Everything's so sensitive.
Everything was so fucked, and I have friends of mine, you know, a friend of mine who is a person of color that was right there in the middle of that shit. His sneaker store was looted 5 times.
Oh no.
And they raised all of this money, and they didn't give him a penny of it.
What?
Yeah, and then
Who raised the money?
BLM.
Okay. And
in Minneapolis. He didn't get a fucking penny.
They kept it?
They gave a bunch of money to sex workers. The woman that owns BLM owns like a $4 million house in California. So it was like,
because the organization in itself, it's some sketchy
corrupt
thing.
as fuck, yeah. And then also, you know, in Seattle, I had been asked to come play this private show, so I went to Seattle. I hadn't seen my manager in like 7 months, so I was like, dude, I'm gonna rent us a condo downtown. Like I was being paid very well to go do this private thing. And I get a message from the Airbnb host that's like, hey, you know, just so you know, this place is right in the middle of the chop, so I don't know if you're comfortable still staying here. If you're not, I'll give you a full refund. And I was like, I'm me, man. I'm like, throw me right in the middle of that motherfucker. Let me see it.
I'll love it.
Yeah. But what I saw was very, because prior to that trip, I was fully on the team. Like, yeah, man, burn this motherfucker down.
Right.
Like, fuck these motherfuckers, you know? And as a skateboarder and activist and
A rebel.
graffiti artist, rebel by nature,
Yeah.
I was always like, fuck the police, man.
Right.
And then I got there, and the BLM camp in the CHOP was 99% white kids, and every night I would sit on this balcony and watch them go out and just destroy shit. It was not like, we're gonna get this bank, we're gonna like disrupt the system. It was, we're gonna fuck up this local business and break all their windows and destroy the inside of the, and I watched it with my eyes.
What's the intention with that?
Chaos, it's anarchy, dude. It's not, there's no activism about it. It was fucking.
Is that Antifa? Or
Yeah, they were all wearing the black and the whole nine, but it was all white kids. And I was like, you're doing this to help black folks
Destroying
who
their
are
businesses?
seeking justice and fair treatment by the police? Like, and then what was a really powerful thing was the last morning I was there, I went for a walk around the neighborhood and I'm watching people sweep up glass, and there was a black cop that was standing in front of this coffee shop that had its windows broken out. And I was like, yo, bro, this is an interesting line for you to walk. Like, how do you feel about this shit? He's like, dude, I've had more racial slurs yelled at me in the last 6 weeks of my life than I have in my entire life.
Wow.
People, white people, telling me what I am.
Oh, because he's a cop.
I'm a traitor, I'm this.
Oh,
like,
no.
I'm a man with a job, providing for my family,
Trying to
to make my life better and help society. Yeah, so it was like, that trip just blew my hair back, and I was like, okay, I'm against extremism of any kind. Any kind. I don't give a fuck what the cause is. The answer is not throwing rocks. It is not setting shit on fire.
It's
it is
not
not
hurting.
stealing sneakers from my homie's shop. You fucked up my boy's family, actually, when you looted his store 5 times. You know what I mean? You're not... Show me how that helped.
Right.
Because what you really did was fuck up my dude's life and income 5 times. You know, you did not help anybody by doing that.
Right.
And previously, yeah, like I said, growing up, I would have been so like, yeah, man, Molotov cocktails, fuck the system, let's break everything. And it's like, no, these are human beings that work their ass off to start these businesses. And you're destroying them in the name of whatever the thing is that's going to give me an excuse to justify my actions.
Yeah.
You know, and it's that mob mentality too that's just like, oh, we're breaking shit? Okay, I guess we're breaking shit then.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was weird for me. So when 2020 hit, to round it back to your original question, like, I was like, I'm done touching politics. I'm focused on my centeredness, my spirituality, and my family, and my heart. Because I cannot control whatever the fuck this wildfire is. I can control me and my reaction to it.
And it's confusing and it's divisive.
Yes.
You know, like, even if you say let's say it's about teams. It's not about teams, but say you switch teams or sides or perspectives. You know what? Things have changed. Now this is how I feel. Then you'll have the other half people hating on you, and how does that bring any healing?
None.
You know. So then you go back to spirit and spirituality and healing as an individual. That's where we can do the most work.
I agree. And then, yeah, just setting an example of like, yeah, I don't want to be the guy or encourage people to be the guy or girl that gets angry and their answer to getting angry is to throw rocks at something. It's like, no, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think it's like self-mastery and learning like, okay, how can I move through this without overreacting or ending up in jail? You know, like, how can I fucking move through this in a good, beautiful way that I'm taking notes the whole time, and at the end of my life I become a good person? You know?
How can we love all, regardless of their opinions and perspectives that might not align with ours?
Yeah, you know, it's so interesting because I look back, you know, I remember talking to my father-in-law who graduated high school in 1969, and I was like, was it this bad in the 60s? He was like, I mean, yeah, we thought society was about to collapse, for sure, you know. But when you look at the demonstrations in the 60s, the flowers and the guns, it was this very, like, the nonviolence movement. It was like, no, you can do whatever the fuck you want to us, because how do you make someone look like a psychopath? You put a flower in their gun and then let them kick the shit out of you. Right. And then you're like, who's the crazy one here? You know what I mean? Like, you want to show how fucked and corrupt the system is. You don't have to do much. You just let it be the system that it is. It will show itself to be fucked up and corrupt, because that's what it is.
we always want to be peaceful and good and loving, even when we are political.
Yeah.
I don't paint politics into my art because with politics, you're taking a side, you're going to another side, and I don't want to go against anybody. But in the last couple years, I had to make a choice, the vax, and that put me on a category that pushed me away, and I had to jump countries to like find a place where nobody would be, you know, difficult on me. And I felt like doing paintings to express this, like, you know, like, why are we, you know, like, why does this concentrated power want to like double down on control of their people? But at the time where it would be more relevant, I felt like, you know, it would have been difficult. That's why my podcast is more like a way we can talk about it without really, you know, seeing like you're attacking anybody.
Yeah.
With a song or a painting.
Yeah, I think the thing that was so interesting that's happened, and it's wild, and it seems like more people are waking up to it, but it's like, if you can get everybody, meaning citizens, if you can get all of your citizens at war with each other, they're not going to be paying attention to shit that you were doing, whether you were starting wars, who you're giving money to. So it was a really interesting thing, because I was on the same team, right? So we watched this thing happen where it said, I'm not sure I want to get a vaccine that skipped a bunch of trials and shit. Oh, well, then that means you're a transphobic, conservative, racist,
misogynist.
I was like, no, I actually just don't want to get the vaccine, is actually what that means.
Can we have like some years to observe this new technology and see what it does? Because all new technologies have bumps.
Well, and what was a really tricky thing, so we went on tour before anyone else. So a lot of the venues had these requirements, and at the time I couldn't say, I've never said this publicly, we all had fake vaccine cards so we could go on that tour. I wanted to go play fucking music.
Right.
And all my boys needed to get back to work. So we did that tour in 2022, fall of 2022. So some of the venues in California and wherever in these more liberal cities had these.
22?
Yeah, I think.
Or 2020, 21?
21 maybe. We went out before anybody, bro. We were selling so many tickets because nobody was on tour.
Right.
And
good strategy.
But I was getting reamed all day, every day on the internet from people that didn't want to get the vaccine, and were like, how could you support a venue that's doing this, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I'm not supporting the venue. I have fucking 7 employees that need to go back to work, and none of us got vaccinated. We all got fake cards. Like, and I wanted.
But you couldn't say that online.
No, and that was the thing, was my manager was like, I had put up a story saying like, yo, it's not that hard. Like the same, I had said, I think all I said was, the guy that will be checking your vaccine card is the same guy that's going to be looking at your ID. There's not some government scan computer there or something like that. I just said that. Like, I'm just saying.
In the States, it was easier. In Canada, to get into restaurants, you need to show the app.
Oh, you had to have an app.
Yeah.
Whoa. Okay, so it wasn't that way down here. So I just kept kind of hinting at like, yo,
like here you show a picture of something like, they don't even read the name of the thing. It's like, okay, like, I don't care.
Yeah, we all got on a cruise, you know. But like, I think the other thing that was wild was the lack of empathy from those people too, where it's like these venues are hanging on by a fucking thread. The fact that after COVID, there's even, that these small clubs even still exist, you know, and you're being like, fuck you guys, blah, blah. It's like, they're not making those rules either. It's the county or the fucking state or the city. So it's like, you got to pick a better enemy. Like, it's not this music venue. It's not the bands that are going to play the music. Like, we're not supporting any of this. This venue is probably this close to death. And if they don't start doing shows again, they will disappear.
Right.
And
that's another mom and pop, and
it's
then the corporations take over everything.
So it's like, if you want all of these venues to die and Ticketmaster to come in and snatch them all up, then cool, we can run that too. But it's like, there was just not a lot of critical thinking. It was like, you're either on this team or this team. And then the fights that would happen in the comments between like, you're not getting vaccinated, you're killing grandmas. It's like, you guys, just fucking either come to the show or don't.
Yeah.
Either way, shut the fuck up. Like, either I'll see you there or I won't.
Yeah, I'm happy that those fights are chilling out.
Yeah.
I would hope that.
Well, the data's in now.
Yeah.
We were right.
Like, hey, that thing didn't even work, and everybody got pressured to getting something that might have all these heart issues now.
Yep.
Like, great, you know,
Yep.
like, oh, you trusted corporations? Really?
Yeah, and I remember saying too, it was just like, you're asking me to trust the United States government and the pharmaceutical industry.
Right. We have
They
a terrible
don't.
record.
I was gonna say they don't have the best track record of honesty and transparency.
Right.
Yeah, wild
man.
fucking times, man.
Well, now you're back on tour. The
Yes.
world is still crazy, but in a different way. We're allowed to even have these conversations without a million rocks falling on us.
Yeah.
How is being on tour? Like, how long is this current tour you're on?
This one is only 3 weeks.
Okay.
So this is a short one, which is great, man. That's 6 weeks this fall. That was a lot.
Yeah. How is it to be in a bus with four or five
Five other dudes,
different
yeah. Or
guys?
6 other dudes.
Uh-huh.
It's all right. I mean, the tricky thing with the bus is that you have these individuals with very different habits. I like my space clean. For this to work, my space has to be clean and organized. And I would never wear shoes inside my house because I roll around on the floor a lot. You know, I stretch on the floor a lot. So it's all right. What is cool with the bus is there's no alone time that I've found as good as being in a bus bunk. Like when you crawl in that bunk and close that curtain, it's like almost like a sensory deprivation tank. You're just like, I am in my bubble. You put your headphones in, it's like the world is gone.
Okay.
So that's really dope.
So you do get your alone time.
Yes.
Is there like any technique for reaching harmony in such a tricky environment? Like everyone could be nice, but still, we all got good days and bad days.
Yeah, no, I think the big thing, like our tour manager was just talking about this yesterday, of like, let's just not take things personally. We haven't toured in like 4 months or whatever, and now we're all in this fucking sardine can together. So like, yeah, everyone, and sometimes you sleep well, sometimes you don't sleep well. Everyone's hungry at different times. So like, the more you can kind of give everybody grace of like, and you know that it's the first week of tour, everyone's kind of getting their legs under them again.
Right. It's tough to go out there and perform. As we spoke before, the musician is a performance. You can't just show up there and play your CD and sit in the back and be like, I hope they like my music. You have to play it. You have to be there. You have to face him. As opposed to like a live painter that's giving its back, and I can take breaks whenever I'm getting overstimulated and stuff. And sometimes, you know, you just spent months by yourself, and all of a sudden you're throwing yourself back in there like, here I am.
Yeah.
Like the level of vulnerability must be kind of intense.
The adjustment's always weird because when I'm home, I have such a private life. I hang out with, you know, my wife and my son, and then when I go do jiu-jitsu with my homies. I don't really hang out with anybody when I'm home outside of that.
Okay.
So.
You don't have any friends?
Well, the friends that I train with.
Okay.
But it's like, yeah, man, I don't go out. I like being home, you know?
Right.
So, yeah, it's definitely an adjustment to get back into the world and in front of a bunch. Yeah, the first show was really weird on this tour of just like, oh yeah, I forgot that this is what I do and this is what makes my whole life actually my life. You know, like this is why I have a house to go back to. This is why like everything is the way it is.
Right.
But I feel like yesterday, I feel like the festival set like fully shook the dust off and was just like, yeah, bro, I have the coolest job in the world.
Because when you receive, because you're giving energy, but then you're receiving so much energy, it must really charge you up and you're like, fuck yeah, this has meaning, has purpose, it's really shaking up a lot of good in people.
Yeah,
you know?
and the festival too, you know, club shows are cool because it's like this cool kind of container for the energy. But like yesterday, it's still like, I'm still so in awe of, I kind of do this dice roll, you know, when we do the last chorus of I Am, I always like stick the mic out. And yesterday there was like 10,000 people watching our set. And I was like, okay, let's fucking see. And
people killed it.
Loud as fuck.
Yeah.
And then on the bus ride to the venue, I was just like, geographically in the United States, I couldn't be much farther from home than I am right now. I think Miami is probably the farthest I could get from home.
Because you live in Montana.
Yeah. And I was like, bro, like in 8 years, your music fucking made it down here, bro. You know, and it's like, to think of this thing growing while I'm sitting at home hibernating and doing me, it's like, it makes me kind of want to go out and be like, yeah, I need to go check in with these communities and see how we're doing.
Right.
You know?
You can't just do it online all the time. Do you think there will be a time in your life when you're less young that you just might not feel like touring and stuff? And what happens then in a world where record sales are impossible to make, or, you know, it's tough to make money from the music like back in the day? Now it's like it has to be a performance. As a muralist, I'm like, do I want to be painting murals in my 50s, in my 60s? Like at one point, I'm gonna be like, enough. I just want to stay home and paint a canvas. How does it feel like a musician? Like, will there be a time where I'm like, I cannot get on stage, or will you be like Mick Jagger jumping
Bob
until
Weir,
you're
yeah.
brave?
It's weird. I go back and forth. You know, sometimes I'm like, yeah, man, I'm gonna be Bob Weir. I'm gonna be 70 some years old and still doing this and loving every minute of it. But I don't think that's realistic. I actually do really well. I own all of my music. I own the rights to all my music that I've written. So I actually do pretty well from streaming.
Okay, nice.
The touring thing, though, it's like that's the heart of really what this is. You know, the show is the magic thing. Like, the music lives with people in their car and their headphones, but live is that's the ceremony.
It's the now.
Yeah, that's the ceremony. So I don't know. I think I would definitely get to a place where, like, I look at Jack Johnson. That is a huge goal. You know, where he's like does like 20 shows a year, where it's like, I do these, I do these 5 festivals, and then, you know what, let's do a 3-week tour once a year. You know, that looks attractive to me. I like touring, man. I love it and I hate it. It's like such a weird thing. But the show is just such a, like, the boys always joke that it's like, this is what it must be like to be like a junkie. Where you like spend your whole day like sick and like, fuck, I gotta get off this shit, man. This is fucking terrible. And then you like get your fix and you're like, never mind, I love heroin, dude. This is fucking amazing, you know, like. So yeah, it's hard, but it's what we do, and I think it's what we're built to do. Trev always says that, like, we're gypsies by nature, you know. Like, if you're in this field, like, this is it. This is the work, you know. So. Yeah, to answer your question, the dream life for me would be in the next 15 years or so to move to 1 tour a year and spend most of my time coaching fighters. I really love coaching, especially young guys. You know, I just love mentoring and coaching. So, yeah, I'll always do it as long as I'm physically able, but definitely will tone it down a bit, yeah.
You were recently in Ohio, right? How long ago?
Well, we're going there. The first show of this tour was in Ohio, and then we have another one in Cleveland.
How was it looking out there after the East Palestine spill?
It looked fine, and I was asking everyone questions like, you got any headaches, or? I couldn't even dive into that, man. Like, some of the shit I was reading, I was just like, are you shitting me? And the biggest thing I noticed was, like, it seemed like president maybe should have showed up and been like, hey, we're gonna help, this is super fucked up.
Did he even talk about it at all?
Not really. It was like, you know, half of his campaign was like all of this environmental shit he was gonna do. It was like, well, it was a pretty huge environmental issue, like actually the biggest one in like recent history.
Yeah, it's like the American Chernobyl, they say.
And nothing really, you know, but
well,
no.
It exposes their hypocrisy. It's like, oh, we want to take all your
Go
rights
green
for the environment, but here's a big thing, and we don't actually care that much because it's corporations that didn't want to pay for proper breaks for their trains.
We'll fine them 2% of their net for this year. Yeah, so no, nothing that I noticed. It seemed very normal, and it didn't seem like anyone there was too worried about it, which is almost even scarier because it's like, you know, it's kind of like the Flint thing. When did we quit talking about Flint, Michigan? That water's still fucked up. People still drinking lead.
Right. That's crazy.
I don't know. Yeah, but yeah, the vibe was like, okay, everything is chill. I guess. Don't drink the water, guys.
Yeah. Okay. So it wasn't nothing obvious where like people were coughing as they're walking down the street.
No, nothing like that. Even my tour manager's parents live there. And I asked them, like, you guys, any coughs or headache? They're like, no.
Okay, cool. Well, that's good to know, because if people were, like, you know, dropping all around, that'd be very sad.
Yeah, I'm sure, but time will tell. Just like the vaccine thing. It's like, let's see what 6 months looks like.
Right, long-term situation. Well, you and me actually met in Ohio at Pyro Festival.
Yes, we did.
Do you have any reflections on that cool little festival?
Yeah, you know, the fact that that festival even works is crazy to me. Joe is an absolute lunatic.
He is, in a good way.
Yeah,
He's
you
a
know,
big dreamer.
I wasn't always certain it was a good way, and then at that festival I kind of saw him in a different light where I was like, you know, it's kind of cool that Bud Light isn't here, and you know that there is, like, this is just some crazy old acid deadhead that manages to pull off this big party. And it was like, man, this is kind of cool that guys like you still exist. Because like, as you saw, there's like the very professional festivals,
right?
You know, and then there's Joe that's like, I don't really know, man.
But it seems to work out, and the vibe is great.
It is, and it's the people that make it. You know, there's like, it's like this controlled chaos container that just manages to work. Yeah, no, that Pyro was really interesting. So I played solo, and I got there really early because I just had an early flight. So I got my rental car, and there's not really much to do in Dayton or wherever the hell I flew into. So I ate and then was like, well, I guess I'll go to the festival. And I got to the festival, and I quickly forgot that I was there to play. So I was like hanging out with people, some old friends that I hadn't seen in forever were there, so we're like hanging out in the shade, and long story short, I took these mushrooms, and then I really forgot that I was there to play. I was just like, no, I'm just on mushrooms and hanging out with my friends. And then this golf cart pulls up and was like, dude, you're supposed to be at the stage right now setting up. And I was like, for what? And they're like, you have to play. And I was like, oh, okay. So I went, and Tim Snyder, the dude that played violin with me, helped me set up my stuff, because I like opened the case and was like looking at my pedals. And for the last year, I always have my sound guy with me that sets my stuff up for me. So I was like, I actually don't remember how this all works. And Tim was like, I got it, dude. So Tim was really helpful and went and set up like the technical shit. And then I remember taking my guitar out and tuning it. And when I went to put it on the guitar stand, everyone started cheering, and I like look, and then it dawned on me like, wow, that's thousands of people, and they're definitely piled in here to watch me play. So it got really heavy really quick, and then I like told Tim, who was gonna do one song with me, I was like, hey, could you just stay up there with me, man? He's like, yeah, for sure.
Nice. And he's a violin player?
Yeah. And then once we started playing, I was just like, oh my God, like this is the coolest thing ever.
Well, you did great.
Good.
Were you high up there?
Oh yeah, dude. Oh
wow.
Yeah.
Then you must have felt so much energy.
Yeah, there was that, and then I also remember it just getting dark. Like I don't remember it gradually getting dark. It just all of a sudden was dark. Like I went from being able to see everyone to being able to see no one, and then I like had this moment where I was like, have I been up here for like 3 hours? Because it wasn't dark when I got here.
Right.
You know, I had lost all time, and then I looked over, and the guy's like, one more song, and I was like, okay, thanks for the direction, because I was like, have I been here 10 minutes? Have I like,
am I going over?
Yeah, exactly. Or have I been up here, and they're like sitting there like, what the fuck is this guy doing, you know?
Right. Well, it was nice to meet you on Mushrooms.
Yeah. Yeah.
When I met you, you said like, oh yeah, I know you from Creation Skateboards
back
in the day.
Yeah.
So tell me about skateboarding. You used to skate?
I did.
Still skate?
I did. I haven't in the last few years. Yeah, skateboarding was like such a huge part of my identity growing up. So like, I started skateboarding in probably like 6th grade. I was okay. For me, skateboarding was just about like, we had a crew, you know, like when you skate, you have like a group of friends, and you don't really struggle with like, oh man, what are we gonna do today? It's like, we do the same shit we do every day. Like we get on our skateboards and we go skate. And we had a really cool skate shop in Des Moines where I grew up called Subsect that was like this cultural hub, you know, and everyone trading, you know, everyone borrowing each other skate tapes all of the time. And for me, the biggest part of that was the music. You know, I was really into punk rock, and I found so much music through those skate tapes. That was how I got really, like, there were people in my neighborhood that listened to hip hop, and I was like super into Nas. but so many of those skate tapes, you know, and then when
Do you
look,
remember any?
yeah, like Diggable Planets. That was how I found out about Diggable Planets. Oh my God, The Roots. That was how I found out about The Roots. Like there was so much kind of below the radar hip hop that wasn't commercial at all.
Right.
Because you remember on the back of the VHS, it would say like the name of the skater, the song that was in there,
Right.
you know, and then sometimes where most of their shit was filmed.
What kind of brands were you into?
I kind of went in phases. Like when I first got into skateboarding, I was really into punk rock. So Zero was like, it's the only decks I'll skate. Like I only wear Circas and ride Zero.
Yeah.
And then as I started getting into hip hop, it was like Kareem Campbell was like super dope. So it was like super into Alien Workshop.
Yeah.
And Alien Workshop too always had like the wild graphics. You know, like they always had really
Pendleton art.
Yeah.
Very graphic, beautiful.
Yep.
He's a legend.
Yep. And then girl, like as far as like my favorite deck, God, what was the one with Enjoy? I had this these Enjoy decks, man. I bought the same skateboard like 4 times. It just had such pop to it, and I was really into street skating more than anything. And
yeah.
Just
Did you ever
their
make
decks.
a video part?
Little shitty ones, you know, of like 50-50 in rails, this
I
tall.
would love to see a Satsang fucking skate park as a throwback. You should, you know.
Yeah.
Maybe you just want to stick to music, but
Yeah.
I think it's just so cool to see your roots in another culture that's totally different.
Yeah, and then you know, when I moved to Chicago, all my sister's friends were really into skating pools. Like they were all cement park guys, and you know, so I was dabbling into that, which was like a whole different kind of skating. It wasn't about this like, oh, I have to land this trick. It was like, no, man, just being in the flow of going and like.
What year did you start skating?
It would have been yeah, probably 98, 99, somewhere around there.
That's when I got back to skating, because I started in the 80s, like mid 80s, but it's all transition. And then 90s came, it's like, okay, now it's all street.
Yep.
So it's like, okay, I gotta learn a whole brand new style of skating.
Yeah, do you know Ryan Reyes? Did you meet?
Yeah. Well, we're in that panel discussion.
Yeah. Dude, I watch the stuff he does. To me, what's cool with skating is, like street skating was really huge, and that was all anyone I knew did. And then when I moved to Chicago, I didn't know any street skaters. Everybody just skated pools and cement parks, and that was it. We hung out at the Wilson Park, and you skated the pools. And then to see it now, like I always say Ryan Reyes is like the parkour of skateboarding. Like he finds the most creative, random, like he posted some shit the other day where he kickflip tail slaps a boulder and then rides off on the dirt. Or like impossible flips and lands on the wall and then like comes off of it.
Yeah.
Like, what the
He
fuck?
skates things that shouldn't be skated.
Yes.
But yeah, it's almost like he brings the tranny vibes into the street vibes, because street vibe is very like you know, sharp angles, and he wants to ride this shit.
Yeah, yeah, very, very much.
As if it does have a curve.
Yeah. He's just one of the most creative and just such a sweet guy. I'm gonna live in, me and my wife and son are gonna live in Orange County for 2 months next winter.
Okay.
And I'm so excited to just get to hang out with Ryan all the time. He's such a deep cat. We actually sat in ceremony together.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
In Boulder.
Somewhere in the middle of nowhere, Colorado. It was out there.
With Unlimited Sciences.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's the last time we saw each other in Denver, Colorado for an Unlimited Sciences event. You know, we had a panel discussion and we talked about medicines, and then at night you played a concert and I live painted, and it was a really fun day with a lot of potent people.
Yeah.
Like a lot of fighters.
Yep.
Can you tell us what Unlimited Sciences is, a gist of it, and you know, what it does and how you got into it?
Yeah, so I've always been a huge advocate of psychedelics, just because when I was young, it was the very like Hunter Thompson playful relationship. But you know, I struggled with alcoholism for a long time, and you know, I would get sober for a few months and then fall off, and it was this very white-knuckled thing. And then I had a psilocybin experience that just like turned it off. And then actually that last fall, after 9 years of sobriety, I relapsed again. It was so weird. But Unlimited Sciences, I found out about them. I had always seen them in the periphery, and knew about the Johns Hopkins study. So what they're doing is essentially, it's like a survey that's like, well, if you're going to eat mushrooms, can you fill out this survey? And it's for Johns Hopkins, you know. So they've collected actual data, like, which is what all of us who have been using psychedelics have been saying forever, is like, no, I actually had a life-changing experience that helped me heal an addiction, that helped me heal a trauma, that helped me heal any number of things, right? And so they've collected that data and then since used that data to get laws changed, decriminalizing and, you know, legalization for clinical use. You know, my wife is a MAPS certified therapist.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, so it's like a huge part of our kind of family, you know. It really is.
What would you say is the difference between Unlimited Sciences and MAPS? MAPS is huge now. It's being in documentaries. It gets a lot of funding and attention. Unlimited Science seems to do its own thing in Colorado.
Yeah, so Unlimited Science is kind of a like the fishnet approach, which is like, you don't have to come here with a clinician and do 3 sessions and do this whole thing. It's just like, here's this survey. Next time you do mushrooms, please take this survey. And then there's like the follow-up surveys, you know, where MAPS, how I got hip to MAPS, you know, my brother, we both had PTSD from growing up, and then he actually joined the Army to get out of some legal trouble and went to Iraq in 2003 and was in the infantry. So he came home with severe PTSD.
Wow.
So I had been, PTSD had always been a very interesting thing to me because I struggled with it myself, but, you know, really watching my brother and was like, whoa, this is like fucking serious, you know?
Right.
So how I heard about MAPS was they were doing these MDMA studies where to even qualify, you had to have tried, I think it was 3 or more medications, you know, and multiple clinicians to help you work through your PTSD, and had no success. So what they were doing was you know, working with a clinical psychiatrist or clinical therapist while under the influence of MDMA. And they had like over a 90% success rate in curing PTSD, not treating it, of people 6 months removed from their sessions.
What
being
percentage?
Over 90.
Wow.
Yeah, dude. And not, again, not like, oh, we found this pill and people are reporting that it's like helping them get through their day. People being like, yeah, no, since those sessions, like, I'm fine. I'm not really struggling with PTSD at all.
Wow.
So, and you think, so imagine, right, you have some trauma, something that's haunting you, that's fucking with your day to day, and then you put MDMA in the mix and you have a professional be like, no, let's turn towards that and let's look at it.
Yeah.
You know, and then you're working through this thing rather than medicating this thing, you're working through and healing it.
You're loving yourself in the vulnerability that you find yourself within.
Yeah, so MAPS, the reason that they've blown up is because the fucking data spoke for itself. You know, it was like, yeah, this isn't a game. This isn't like some kooky people feeding people drugs. It's like they're actually healing people. And and now they're doing the psilocybin studies with depression that are showing the exact same fucking results. It's like,
these are medicines.
These are actual medicines.
Drugs.
Yeah, and what to me is what's really cool is there's like the shamanic approach of the ancient with these traditions that have been around forever that serve their own purpose. But with everything we know about the human mind now and how it actually works, to have someone that is, you know, professionally studied human consciousness and how the brain holds trauma, where it goes, and knows how to get into it, and then, dude, you sprinkle these medicines in that process. It's like, you know, 1 session is the equivalent of like 6 years of therapy. So it's like, it's just such an exciting time to see, because you know, could you imagine a world where we weren't treating depression, where it was like, oh yeah, we're going to get you set up with this doctor and we're going to cure your depression, and, you know, in the next few months you're going to be fine.
That's a beautiful world.
That's a beautiful world. Yeah, it's really important work that I'm super passionate about, and like I said, me and my wife are, you know, very much in the works of trying to figure out how to make that our family business.
Nice.
You
So
know.
how do you get into unlimited sciences as opposed
Oh, yeah.
to maps?
Right.
Since your wife already works for
Dell
maps?
Dell
Del
reached
Jolly.
out to me. I don't remember how Dell Jolly and I got connected. I really don't. But we hung out and became best friends immediately.
He's a sweet guy.
He's a super sweet guy. We're both into jiu-jitsu. We both hunt elk. Like, we were both just like, we're very similar dudes. We're into all the same things. And I had come down to Denver to do a private, or not a private show, but like a limited capacity sit-down show during kind of the COVID restriction capacity thing. And I hung out with him and Rashad, and we completely broed out. And then I was getting ready to go to Texas to do more solo shows during the like limited capacity shit. And he invited me to ceremony. And this guy had reached out to me named Mo months in advance and was like, hey, we run this adaptive training facility for injured veterans. We listen to your music all the time. Would you please come do a workout with the guys? So I did, and then afterwards he takes me out to eat, and he goes, you know, I'm telling him about unlimited sciences, and he's like, yeah, I know Dell. And then I find out that he's also gonna be at that ceremony. I was like, what the fuck? You know, so send a picture to Dell. I was like, oh, that's wild. Then I'm in Austin 2 days later, hanging out with another friend of mine. It's like, oh, Rashad Evans is like one of my best friends. Are you gonna be at ceremony in May? I was like all of these things kept happening. So it was really cosmic, you know, that we all got intertwined with each other.
Nice, yeah, the synchronicities and
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah, I was invited to do ceremony around that last time, but I was just not in the mood. Sometimes it's good to like sit it out. It's like,
Yeah,
I'm
I was offered to go sit in May, me and my wife both, and I have some other work to do before I go in there, some like ground to smooth out before I get in there.
Right. It's you know, there's time to go in there and hit the mat.
Yep.
And there's time to also sit it out and be like, you know what? I'm still digesting the last time, and
Yep.
I need some time. You know,
Yeah.
it's not like a competition of how many you
How many can I
achieve.
sit? Yeah.
Yeah, totally. But that event was beautiful. I love the panel discussion we had.
Yep.
I'm not used to being surrounded by fighters.
Yeah, pretty chill dudes, most of them.
Yeah, I can't even, like, Sugar Sammy is Rashad, right?
Yeah, Sugar Rashad.
Yeah. And then there was that other guy.
Corey Sandhagen, yeah.
Yeah.
He's
pretty big, right?
Yeah, he's about to win a title, I think, in the next couple years. Yeah, I think he's ranked number 3 right now.
And they do medicine.
Yeah.
He was interesting because he has to keep this, I don't want to call it a mask, but like he's got to keep his armor of like, I'm a fighter and I could fuck you up, while like I'm also trying to break up my armor and be a child of the light to serve with love. That's a tricky one. Once again, it's that path that almost you've taken as a musician, where like you're both like a very like grounded, divine masculine, that allows itself to have the sensitivities of what people would like correlate to the feminine.
Yeah, I think that's why Rashad, again, like, is leading by example. You know, I think Rashad is so important for that. You know, Rashad used to be a bad man. You know?
Yeah?
Yeah, he was the light heavyweight champion of the world, and had a swagger about him. You know, very like Ali vibes.
Oh yeah.
He was out. You know, and now he is this soft, humble, gentle. You know, so I think he's really showing a lot of these fighters, like, you can be both, man.
Yeah.
You know, like, you can be doing this self-work and stuff like that and still turn the killer on when it's time to hunt, you know.
That's beautiful. And thank you for sharing your experiences with medicine. Is it mostly Aya or mushrooms or something else? Like, you got any reflections on particular medicines?
Yeah, so I would say psilocybin is kind of my jam, just because it actually makes me the most uncomfortable out of all of them. I thought Aya was, we danced pretty well together. It wasn't, LSD has always been that way for me too. It's pretty easy for me. It doesn't really make me uncomfortable. Like, shows me all of the things.
Without the anxiety or...
And psilocybin every time is this like cocoon, like, oh my God, like, am I actually living correctly? Like, holy shit, it really...
That's interesting, because people, when they say like, oh, let's eat some mushrooms and jump around and be happy kids, and that happens a lot, but that's
not for me.
That stopped happening for me. Like, in college it was that way, but after doing Aya, now mushroom opens up the portal for Aya, and I think like mushrooms opens up, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna come and take over now. Mushrooms, thank you so much for opening up the portal.
Yeah.
I gotta clean this motherfucker up as much as I can in this opening.
I think a lot of it's maturity too, is as you get older, it becomes work. You're not doing it for fun. It's
Right.
like, you know, it's work now, and I think there's like a thing in your head that's like, we're going to do work right now. We're not gonna eat mushrooms and go to a concert. The idea of that I used to do that all of the time. You know, the idea of eating mushrooms and going to a concert, I couldn't even imagine that, dude. I would be out.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, I remember going to check out the Foo Fighters in the late 90s on mushrooms and be like, oh my God, I would so not do that now.
Yeah, no way.
Well, give thanks to plant medicines
Yes.
and all the healings they bring into our lives. Let's touch a little bit about a situation that touches a lot of public people, cancel culture, which seems to be an episode that really has intensified in the last few years. It seems like every person who has a lot of following in a public way gets to go through this episode of scrutiny and judgment for not being perfect. Yet, we're all humans and we're all imperfect. Yet our story plots or whatever we're doing are presented onto everybody for them to fucking, you know, either say that you're the best person in the world or a piece of shit. Have you gone through that as a public person?
A little bit. You know, like I touched on during the vaccine thing, that was rough. But there was definitely, I had JP Sears, who's a good friend of mine. I had him on my podcast, and we really didn't even talk about anything controversial. You know, I said in the first 5 minutes of the conversation, I said, you know, I don't agree with a good handful of your opinions, JP, but I just love your authenticity, and I think you're a really great guy. So it took me a couple days of the amount of hate that I was getting and screenshotting, and really small people, you know, very physically and emotionally weak people talking shit to me. Like, well, I just grew up, like, if you say some shit about someone, you got to see them about it. So that was a really big struggle for me, is like, yo, dude, I will fucking smack the dog shit out of you and your 5 closest friends at the same time. Like, it was such a wild thing. And then what hit me about 2 days into that was realizing, like, oh, not only did you not listen to the podcast, you didn't listen to the first 2 minutes. Like, I literally introed the podcast saying, I don't agree with a lot of what you say, but I love you and I think we would have a cool conversation, so let's get into it.
Right. Or somehow they just didn't hear that part.
Yeah, I just don't think they listened at all, and I think it's such a, I think that there's weak, you know, I always say losers talk shit, winners do shit. And there's a lot of people out there not doing shit. So they see JP's picture and they go, I've always kind of had a thing where I just didn't really like Drew anyway. You know, maybe you were in some band that you started at the same time as me, and I'm off doing my thing and you're still working at a fucking pizza joint, which was the case for one dude that was especially loud. And people that I actually thought were friends of mine completely flip and join in on this shit that I hit up personally, like, yo, bro, you do know you're gonna see me again, and here's the screenshot of everything you said.
Well, what a blessing that they exposed themselves.
Yes, exactly.
And you can weed out the bullshit.
Yeah, and that was actually, that's what I was just gonna say, was like, really, it made me realize, like, this whole fandom thing can turn on you at any minute. So I put no spiritual coin into adoration whatsoever, because again, like I said, these people don't know me. So yeah, it was like a thing for a steady week that the festival community was like, fuck Satsang. And this thing just kind of was happening, and I just kind of had to sit there and watch it, and then sure as shit, you know, I'm sure somebody fucking wore hoop earrings or something else they could be outraged about, and then the internet mob that isn't doing shit, that just talks shit, was like, okay, here's our new village to pillage,
or
you know,
a person to feed off their energy.
Yeah,
because they're hungry ghosts
Yep.
looking for energy without building it up themselves.
Yeah.
And they see somebody who's opened up a little vulnerability from their perspective, and they go and they eat. It's like,
Yeah. You know what else was really cool to see? Was the first day I was responding to shit and trying to defend myself, and like, no, it's not that. And if you would have listened, I said this, this, and this. And then they would double down. Like, all they wanted was to, like, when they're like, oh shit, Satsang saw what I wrote, now we're in.
you're right.
You know?
Here's more. He gave me some more energy that I was
Exactly,
looking for.
yeah, they're farmers. Yeah, exactly, energy farmers. So once, after the first day, I realized pretty quickly what this game was. And I was like, well, if I don't engage with this game, it's going to go away, because I didn't do anything wrong. It's not like...
Having a conversation with someone should not be a crime.
Exactly, and that was what I kept telling myself, because for a while you're sitting there being like, fuck, did I, like, oh, should I have talked to him? It's like, no, you're allowed to talk to whoever you want to fucking talk to, dude. You didn't rape somebody, you know, you're not stealing money, you're not doing some crazy thing, dude. You talked to a guy that's a friend of yours, you know, so, yeah, it was a process, but yeah, I realized after, like, day one, it still hurts, you know, it still hurt, because the big thing, like I said, was people that I considered friends of me and friends of the band, and finding out like, oh no, you're not at all.
Yeah. They pretended to be friends.
You pretended to be friends.
You're popular.
Yes, and maybe I could give you something.
Right.
You know, like there was one guy in particular. There was a band. I'm gonna fucking say it. Fuck you, dude. How about them apples? There was a band called Dead Larry, and this dude named Joe that played bass in that band and was kind of like anyway, and we had always had a good relationship. Anytime we were in Minneapolis, we hung out, and when he started this side project, I put him on like 3 sold-out shows, and our last interaction was at one of those sold-out shows, like, bro, can I get a picture with you? And he was always kind of keeping these tabs, because I thought we were friends, and I was like, yeah, I don't particularly like your music, it's actually not great, but you're a sweet guy, and you've always been sweet to me. So, like, yeah, if we're in your area, you can open up. Yeah. And him and all of these cats turned on me, and I actually sent him a message that wasn't mean or aggressive. It was all, I just straight up said, like, yo, man, this really breaks my heart, because I
thought we were friends.
I was under the assumption that you and I were good friends.
Yeah.
And now I see that we're not. And his response was, I will never forget, man. He said, yeah, it's just crazy right now, you know, like people in my friend groups are like, being ostracized for listening to Michael Jackson, and now we're not allowed to talk to this kid because he was trying to defend James Brown's music. And I was just like, dude, your friend group sounds like they fucking suck. Like, you're not friends with someone because they like James Brown? Like, I don't have to like James Brown the person, but that is some of the dopest music that's ever come out. And it's like, that's what we're doing now? We're just like, oh, you like James Brown? Okay, well, you can't hang out with us anymore. I'm like, well, you're part...
Jimi Hendrix did some bad things in the
Everybody
day too,
did. We're human creatures, dude.
Right. Like, we all do something, quote-unquote, bad in our learning process to not be bad.
Yes.
And to be canceled and cut down and be like, okay, you're not allowed to continue sharing the channelings from the Most High because we deem you bad.
Yeah, especially when people aren't factoring in things like drug or alcohol addiction, which is a fucking disease. And it's like, oh yeah, so James Brown is an alcoholic that's smoking crack and PCP, did some unfavorable things? Huh, that's crazy. I don't know anyone that's been hammered drunk smoking crack that's done bad things. You know, it's like, fuck, man. So what if this, you know, it's just crazy. It's just crazy, and it's pointless, because it's like, where that road goes of the cancel thing, like where that goes is, like we were saying earlier, it is a palateless world, because we will keep finding new things to be outraged about, and we will keep chopping, you know, we will keep chopping shit down until there's nothing left. Like, what is art when it's policed? It gets pretty shitty pretty quick, dude.
Right. Like, I don't mind bringing something to attention. It's like, hey, you're doing something bad. Let's stop that. But it has to have that ingredient of compassion.
Yeah.
But you're still a human being. And we're not going to destroy your life and make it even more difficult for you to become a higher being.
We're going to assist you.
We're going to hold space for you with fucking mad compassion, because you're obviously suffering if you have to steal energy in weird ways. and then hopefully you can be as good as us. Well, none of us are fucking perfect.
Yeah.
I appreciate, like, when I got canceled a couple years ago.
What did you get canceled for?
Oh, it's a long story. I don't want to get into it because it's so complicated. It would take me like 20 minutes to explain. But it was like the actions of somebody else and my relationship to it.
Yeah.
And that's where fake friends expose themselves.
Yeah.
And that was almost as hard as discovering that my mentor was doing shady things in the background. And as soon as I find out, then everybody else finds out. And I'm like trying to deal with it in a clumsy way. And then people are judging me for my clumsiness about it and everything. And, you know, it's helped me weed out friends who are not friends, but also like, okay, how can I have compassion for them too? Okay, yeah, they joined the gang, but to like attack me at a time where I was vulnerable and show that they didn't really like me. But when I see them again, do I gotta be like, fuck you, bitch, like you've exposed yourself, or can I be like, you're also God having a human experience, I love you too? It's really difficult sometimes.
It is,
you know?
yeah.
Because we get hurt, you know, and hurt people.
Always.
But that's my own personal conversation and journey to becoming my higher self, who's like, hey, they hurt you because they probably got hurt somewhere else, and that was their opening to get the energy they needed.
Yeah.
I don't know. What's your opinion on Knuckle Bear? Because I was speaking with Joe recently, Joe from Pyro Fest. He calls me up being like, I'm thinking of getting Knuckle back on Pyro.
I wish you would.
But people are going to hate on me for it.
No, there'll be like 8 people that are really, really loud that will hate on him.
Like, do people deserve redemption? Like,
yeah.
Sure, people make mistakes. And sure, people can be brought to, that word, you know.
To court, as it were.
Yeah, sure.
But it's not the responsibility of them. Imagine if anytime you broke a law, like you didn't go through, you know, a scheduled legal system that you were like, I don't know, dude, let's get 1,000 people together and see what they want to do with you.
Yeah, random people from the internet who don't know you and who have their own issues. It's like, oh, let's just destroy them. And never again they're allowed to share the medicine from the Most High that pours through them along with their critters. But if the critters were exposed and that hurt them enough and they've done some work to, like, you know, cleanse that out, are they allowed to bring back the good side?
You know, I think with Nako and I were never extremely close. I would definitely say we were friends, but the nature of the work, same thing like with Trev, it's like the nature of our business, we're always in different places at the same time, you know. It's very rare that we get to cross paths, but you know, I think the thing that was interesting with Nako, and I'm not trying to devalue anybody's story or whatever, but in the time that I spent with him, if anything, I witnessed a lot of female attention being very concentrated on him, and him kind of struggling to, like, I don't even, you know, like,
what do I do with
I'm
this
just
power?
trying to sit here and have a conversation with my friend, and there's 7 females damn near attacking me, you know. And I think also, I will say, I've never seen anything even in the slightest iota of predatory behavior. But I think it was, you know, I listened to his new record actually recently again.
Cool.
And it was a trip because prior to that even happening, he was doing the work. And it's so evident in his last record, Take Your Power Back. He was going through the process of doing that work. And the canceling thing kind of just fucking
multiplied it by 10.
Yeah, and it was like, man, he was doing it, but maybe it was good, and it forced him to do it even more and faster. But do I think Nako should come to Pyro? Yeah, I think.
Should Nako in general be allowed
yes,
to perform?
Yes, and here's why I think so. Because, like, you see people like, oh, you know, yeah, we'll say that when your daughter's coming to the festival. It's like, you think Nako's gonna fucking come? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Nako's gonna come fucking attack you. No, he's gonna come to the festival. He's gonna fucking play his songs, and he's gonna leave. Like, and the thing is too that I'm like, I'm a big idea of the open thought economy. So like, what I say is if Joe is feeling the pull to bring Nako there, it's like, cool. Well, if that aligns with you and you want to hear Nako play, then you should come listen to him. If you don't and you say, I don't want to come to Pyro anymore, cool, then don't come.
Yeah.
You know, and
don't attack the organizer,
yeah,
curator.
and what he's supporting or any of that. And it's like, yeah, it will be interesting because I think if Nako went on tour today, you know, like when they announced this tour, I remember we were playing Red Rocks and they had announced this tour, and it was the first tour they had announced after all this shit happened. And then it got canceled within 24 hours because these promoters were just being reamed. But I remember looking at the event pages, and it was the same 5 people in each event page. It wasn't people from that area being like this. It was the same 5 people going in there and being super loud. Yeah. You know, at the end of the day, Nako will have to answer for whatever he has or hasn't done, legally, spiritually.
Karma's karma.
Karma is fucking karma.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just think, again, like I said, if you don't want to, like, that's to me what's so crazy with cancel culture is like, I hear people say shit, I see people do shit all of the time that I disagree with. And you know what I do? I quit fucking paying attention to them. You know, like the thing I go back to all the time. Do you remember Richard Spencer? So he was like the voice of the alt-right. Now, this guy got really famous really fast because anytime he was going somewhere to do a lecture, the mob would show up to try to cancel his fucking speech. You know what happened when he started giving speeches? He fucking disappeared because everyone was like, this guy's a fucking idiot. It's like, yeah, man, let him talk. Oh, wow, your ideas are terrible.
Yeah.
Okay, well, fuck this guy then.
Yeah.
You know, it's like the spectacle is the mob. Like, so it's like, man, just let people, like, bad ideas will suss them out.
They empowered him, if anything.
That's exactly what they did, you know?
Now, I wonder if somebody like Nako, who I imagine works with the medicine, is calling in a big fucking ego destroying event like a cancel culture thing that he probably brought upon himself on, you know, the mistakes he might have made on his normal life, because we're all humans and sometimes we get drunk and we do stupid shit, and do deserve our life to be destroyed or not, that's not up to me. But sometimes you work with the man and says like, I want to be better, I want to be better, I want to be better. You go into the heart of all creation. It's like, please liberate me. And it's like, okay, I'm going to liberate you by destroying what is not you. Let's destroy fucking Nako Bear and let's see what's left. And let's see the fucking flower that comes out of the mud once again.
I think his time will come. Yeah, I think that's dead on, dude. And I think his time will come, whether it's this year or 5 years from now. He's too potent, man. And, you know, we've had our back and forths. You know, we were trying to get in touch with each other this fall. We actually butted heads really hard, and then so we've been trying to reconnect. And his gift is undeniable. Like what he brings is undeniable. You know, I come back to this memory all of the time. There was a time where I would say I was watching Nako blow up while my career was just kind of starting. And I was like envious of just like, how the fuck, man? Because he was just doubling in size everywhere he went, you know. But I remember he came to Shangri-La solo. And I remember going and standing by the soundboard like, all right, motherfucker, move me. And like 2 songs in, I'm like, you know, like, he's something, man. He's something. And I think it's just crazy culturally too, right? If he was a rapper, this wouldn't be a conversation. If
Why?
he was, because the culture is like, oh, what? He was cheating on his girl and was sleeping with a bunch of chicks and, you know, wasn't clear about what relationship status he was in. Like, oh, yeah, man, there's a lot of songs about that, actually.
Yeah, that's
you know
cool.
What I mean? Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
player's
gonna play.
But he's trying to rep the good side.
Yeah.
And it seems like a lot of people who've been trying to rep positivity and the good side, the people who want to see a good world come harder on us because we're actually trying our best to figure it out and make mistakes along the way.
Yeah, I would say too, as a songwriter, I'm not always writing, and I know he's not always writing from the like, this is what I am. A lot of it's like, this is what I know to be true and what I know to be the way. I'm not saying I have it down, I'm not saying I have it dialed, I'm not saying this is how I live, I'm saying that I know in my heart this is the way. So maybe if I sing these affirmations enough, and I, like a mantra, right? If I sing these affirmations enough, they will transmute my life into this goodness. You know, and I think that's the thing a lot of people lose with art, with music art, is it's like, oh, well, he's singing these songs, so he's clearly fucking perfect. It's like, no, dude, he's a guy, you know? He's a guy. He's a person.
Perfect,
yeah. He's
human.
a fucking soul in a meat suit in a crazy world.
So Drew, you seem to have a pretty ideal, beautiful life. You got a wife, you got children, you're healthy, you're a badass dude with great music, a great fighter. What's your build?
What's my what?
Belt. You got your jiu-jitsu
Oh,
belt.
I'm about to get my brown belt. I was gonna get it in California, but my wife wants to be there when I get my brown belt. So
oh wow, that's very supportive.
Yeah. So sometime in the next couple months, I would imagine. What my coach won't tell me. It's sitting on his desk, and he points to it all the time. So he's just fucking with me at this point. But
tell me a little bit more about this whole fighting situation, because I can see fighting as like a meditation. It's a discipline. It's a kind of art, like skateboarding would be. If anything, I would wonder if you got to be a better skater now that you jiu-jitsu, or maybe that's not that kind of
balance.
Fighting.
Yeah.
You know, what has it brought into your life, and what's the importance of a practice like that for you to become the master of yourself?
I think the biggest thing, you know, I come back to this story all of the time. I think it's just like the perfect jiu-jitsu metaphor. When I was a white belt, I had just started. You know, I was in the first couple months of training. My coach was on my back, and he took my gi and flipped it over my face. And I was like shaking and freaking out. And he says into my ear, calm down, you can breathe. Take a breath. And then I was like, oh shit, I can breathe. And then he let go of me and was like, man, so many times we think we can't breathe. You can breathe. Like, you don't need to listen to your mind right away. And you know, jiu-jitsu is this high level problem solving. It's happening really fast, you know, it's happening really, really fast. And it seems chaotic, but as you improve, it starts to become less chaotic, and then it actually becomes this very slowed down game that's just happening fast. And it's the meditation of it. When I'm doing boxing or Muay Thai or jiu-jitsu, I'm not thinking about anything else but what I'm doing. So it is like a meditation for me, but where it's really changed my life is the way I approach problems and my emotion. You know, I used to be so quick to like, well, I'm feeling this emotion and here's the action that goes with that emotion. And fighting really taught me to pause. Like, oh, I can breathe. There actually is no fire. This doesn't actually warrant a reaction. What it requires, well, you know, the action is stay calm and let's unravel, you know, let's unravel this web and fix the puzzle. So for me, that's what it is it's this like problem solving under stress, where like it trains your stress response to kind of go away, you know, like that fight or flight thing that triggers in us. There's levels to it, you know, like if someone hits you in the face, that's one level. You know, another level is like my friend just said something that made me really angry. So it's like, that's fight or flight too. It's like, should I leave this situation because it's awkward, or should I be like, no, fuck you, dude? Where it's like jiu-jitsu over time kind of just makes you be like, oh, he's probably just on his own journey right now. That's fine. I'm not going to give you anything because it doesn't warrant a reaction. I'm not leaving either, though. You know? So
would you even say perhaps jiu-jitsu, it's a chance to put yourself in anxious, high anxiety situation so you can conquer the anxiety that then you can conquer in other parts of your life?
100%. And now it's not even anxious activity. Now I'm good enough that it's like fun, you know? And as you get better and are training with better people, it's less of this like, oh, who's gonna win, and it becomes this like beautiful dance of like, how cleverly can we catch each other, rather than like, how violently can I get you, you know? It's like, and then boxing, you know, boxing and the striking is the same thing. It's when you start, it's such a skittish thing. You're so scared to get hit, and then you get used to getting hit, and you're like, oh, it's actually not that bad at all. As weird as that sounds, like getting hit in the face really isn't that rough. Like compared to falling on your skateboard and getting a giant fucking, dude, getting punched in the face is a fucking cakewalk.
Really?
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
without gloves.
That hurts. Yeah.
Do you ever get punched in the face without gloves?
No, we always have gloves on.
Okay, cool.
But same thing, it's like, okay, this seems really crazy, right? We're trying to punch each other and kick each other. If you're doing it at controlled 50%, you know, we're not trying to kill each other. And it starts to become a game, right? It's just like, oh no, we're playing this game, and I'm not, like, when you can get to like, no, my heart rate's not going up, I'm not nervous, we're just playing this game. Oh shit, you got me, good job, okay, let's see if I can get you.
Yeah.
You know, it's this.
There's no anger or hatred or true negative emotion.
Not at all.
Wanting to really destroy that motherfucker.
No, for me it's super playful. It's almost like that little kid playfulness of just like, oh man, okay, we're about to play this game together, you know, like, yeah, nice. It's super, super fun. Sometimes it could get turned up in the gym where you like, you and your buddy, you start playing and then the play actually turns into a fight, but no, it's just super fun. I really love it, and I love what it brings out of people. You really get to see who someone is in the gym. You know, and jiu-jitsu is so hard. The thing I guess I also really love about it, to stay with jiu-jitsu, you have to be really humble, because you're gonna suck for a really long time, and then you hit these places where you think you're getting good. Like I just said, yeah, I'm pretty good. And then I was just like then I roll with my coach and I go, fuck, I'm not good at all. It humbles you. And there's so many levels to it. It just keeps humbling you, you know? So there's no like mastery to it. And much like art, there's no end goal. Like, you're never gonna make the painting and like, well, I'm done, I'm now a master of the brush.
I did the best painting ever.
I'm done, and this is the pinnacle. Same thing, I'm never gonna write a song where I'm like, well, that's it, I mastered songwriting and now I'm done with it.
But could you maybe make a song that is so popular that becomes a new John Lennon Imagine, that becomes a legendary song forever? And you could do other songs after, but I did the Imagine song.
I think that's probably like what it feels like to win a world title. You're like, well, I'm still gonna keep training, but like, that's probably as good as it gets.
I feel like I've done some paintings that's like, well, I did that painting that forever will be legendary, and now I can do other paintings that feel are better, but that one touched people, and I don't even understand why.
I would love to have a hit song just for that reason of being like,
I beat my last hit song.
Yeah.
Like, say, like, I Am might be your biggest song.
It is.
But that's from, like, a few years back.
Yep.
And you feel like you get better at music.
I'm such a better songwriter than I was when I made I Am. Yeah, that's what's interesting. And it's like, I think, you know, when you get a hit, like we see it with bands all the time, right? Like a band blows up and then their next record, everyone's like, dude, that band got weird. And it's like, yeah, because they don't need you anymore. You know, they like cash their thing out, and now they're in the deep depths of exploring what it means for them to be an artist. So that's why you'll see that, like, after a band has a really big record, and then everyone's like, their new record was weird as fuck, and it's like, yeah, dude, because now they got money and they don't give a fuck anymore. Right. You know, like.
Where do you feel you are in that stage? Are you in that stage where you can get weird as fuck if you wanted to, or do you still want to catch that next big song that will touch people? It's not even out the hit.
Yeah.
That will touch people so deep that you beat yourself.
Yeah.
From 2017 or something.
I try not to think about any of it. I try to just create and just trust that, like, whatever's gonna land is what's gonna land, and whatever's supposed to happen on my path as a musician is just what's gonna happen. It's predetermined. All I have to do is keep showing up.
So there's no goals?
Yeah, I have goals. I would like to, you know, like selling out Red Rocks is a big goal of mine. You know, even getting to a place where we're doing 2,000 tickets a night, you know, like, yeah, there's always goals. But what's interesting about our industry is I have friends that sell 2,000 tickets a night that have sold out Red Rocks, and then they're going, yeah, man, well, I wish we were playing arenas. You know, it never ends. No, and that's like I'm saying, that's what jiu-jitsu is too. It's like, you don't get your black belt and you're like, okay, well, I'm done then.
Oh, yeah?
I did it. No, you do it for life. It's a lifestyle, and like, and music's the same way. So it's like, no matter what happens in my career, I'm never gonna not be making songs. You know, and I would
You always want to beat yourself.
Yeah.
Whatever the last highlight was, you still wanna one up yourself.
Yeah, and what's cool about it is if we're living right, we should keep getting wiser and deeper and better at our craft. So in theory, it should keep growing, because you're going to be making better art by proxy if you're trying. It's like, there's no way your art's gonna get worse as you get smarter and deeper and have more wisdom.
What would be the maximum goal of your art, of your music?
Man,
what would be that achievement? Like selling out Red Rocks, or melting a person into pure light by the feeling that they had?
It happened last night, dude. There's a gang of them just sitting there melting. No, you know, for me, to have a song that was really deep and meaningful, to have a song like I Am, you know, something that facilitated healing, where like the point of the song was healing, and to see a song like that go global super hit would be really cool, you know, to not have a breakup song or a fucking song about drinking at the club be a mega hit, but to have a song that was like about deep healing and acceptance of self, you know, really that would be the drive. Obviously money is a cool byproduct of having a big hit song, but for me, you know, I had this whole batch of songs that I had written after my relapse, and I just made a decision a couple weeks ago to never release them, because I'm like, nah, man, there's an energy and there's a bar that I've set for myself of what I want to share with people, and they don't need any more sad songs. They don't, you know,
Interesting. So you wrote a bunch of songs that were about your dark side.
Yeah.
That you chose not to share because you felt that would spread the darkness that you were going through?
No, I don't want to live in those songs. So if I record them and release them, then I have to keep playing them, and I don't want to. And yeah, they're just from a place that I don't want to pull from. You know, I'm trying to pull from up there, not this like super mess in here that's like struggling with my, you know, I want to pull from the
But
light.
to show your low parts, does that bring like a resonance or an understanding as somebody who's also going through their low parts,
and I
which
do
is
write.
a lot of people.
I just, like I did, I have this song Morning Light that I'm going to record when I get home that's about the dark and like acceptance of pain, you know, in the process of moving through it. And I'm all about that. But when I play that song, it makes me weep, like the good way of like, oh my God, it's okay, humaning is hard, but we're going to be fine. You know, rather than like, man, this song makes me kind of just want to like drink and be sad. You know.
And I hope you don't mind that.
No,
I was
not at all.
today.
I'm a musician, dude. People drink around me every day.
Right.
Yeah.
I didn't know that you had that relationship with alcohol, and I was like, I'm gonna bring him beer.
You know what's really interesting too is
ended up drinking for him.
My guitar player has smoked pot every day since he was like 15, and he just quit smoking weed like 3 months ago. This is his first tour ever not smoking weed. It's really crazy. I mean, he's a delight. He's like the same dude.
Yeah.
But it's still, I just keep thinking like it must, because I have the same thing every day.
Does he struggle when other people smoke weed around him?
No, and that was the thing last night. I was like smoking, we were sitting there talking, I was like, oh, I'm sorry, dude. And he's like, no, it's cool.
Yeah, because once you get into that.
He said actually the only time that he's been like, ooh, was during our set yesterday. We got a big waft of smoke across the stage, and he was like, during that, I was like, oh yeah, I kind of want to smoke when we get done. This is a fun one.
Yeah,
you know, like,
yeah. What's your relationship with weed?
It's pretty sporadic, dude. I probably smoke about as much as like a middle-aged mom that smokes. Like, I would never like, oh, I'm gonna smoke a joint. Like, I have my little hitter box and my vape pen, and I would say when I'm touring, I maybe hit it once or twice a day. When I'm home and training all the time, I smoke a little more. But yeah, it's like one hit.
Training, really?
Yeah, oh yeah,
to
dude.
Fight, you want to get all mellowed out so you can flow and break somebody's neck.
Yes, yes. But when when I'm home, I have like I take one hit at this time, I take one hit at this time, one hit at this time. So it's like that, you know. I don't like being too high, but I do love the feeling of like just that little bit, you know.
The thing that you explained with jiu-jitsu and anxiety, it's how I feel when I get high. Because I'll get high and I'll get so high that it's almost like, I'm feeling anxiety right now, but let's see how centered I can be.
And move through it.
And move through it and not cop out, because my copping out would go to do rapé. Rapé brings me down, grounds me, it's like, and it's like, okay, I tap out. But it's like, no, you smoked. Go through it.
Yeah.
You're like experiencing a lot right now. It's intense. But what will happen when the apocalypse comes and people are at your door wanting to get your things because everything is a shit show? Can you be calm and work through it in the same way that I'm asking you to do it right now? So this is practice to be calm through anxiety. yes, anxiety is there, but I'm still centered and I can work through it. So I guess that's me getting on the mat.
Yeah, we'll get
martial
just getting
arts
used to hard things, because hard things are coming, whether we want them or not. Every day we're gonna have to deal with unfavorable things that make us uncomfortable.
And I hope there's not a big apocalyptic thing that happens that brings us all against each other.
I don't think it will. I think we all care too much.
You are optimistic about
I am
the future?
optimistic. Yeah. I think we'll. We all want to be here. We all want to be here. We all want this thing to work. So it's like, as fuckered as it gets sometimes, like we will continue to make it work. And
because everybody's voting with their desire, with their vibration. They're trying to convince us that some kind of apocalyptic thing is inevitable. But if we knew how great humanity is and what our ultimate essence is, we could create heaven on earth, knowing that we are God experiencing the physical plane through all of us.
Yeah, and I think too, it's like, I just don't think even the powers that be, they have a vested interest in this thing to keep going. So they're not going to let it crash.
Yeah, they seem like totally insane to me. So I cannot try to understand what their intentions are.
Yeah, I wouldn't try to either. But I think there's so much, and you're catching me on a good day. I feel good today, so I'll say that I'm optimistic today. But I think people in their hearts are genuinely good intentioned and love and want to be here.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Like everybody just loves
people
their
forget.
family
People
and their
forget.
families.
That's it. Life just makes us forget. Life makes us forget, and then we see a baby giggle, or we have these little things that remind us that it's beautiful.
There's so many beautiful things in this world, and sure, we can all just like microscope focus on the negative, but really, there's mostly good.
Yeah, man, it's a pretty rad ride.
Yeah, we can keep on expanding the good.
Yeah.
And bring it hopefully on to others if we can. But yeah, we're getting to the end of our show. Would you have some final words of wisdom or anything to the people who might be watching this? Like, some recommendation in life or anything.
Yes.
You've had many on this conversation already, but
yeah, I would say remember that you're gonna die. And what is the world that you want to live in until then? Because it might happen tomorrow. If you're lucky, you'll get a lot of time before that happens, but you might not. So what do you want to do today?
Live today as if it was the last day of your life.
Yeah.
Like Groundhog Day.
Yeah, and cultivate beauty. For me, I always start with, before I'm going to get pissed about something, is this going to matter in an hour? Yes. Okay, is it going to matter in a week? No? Okay, cool, then it ends here, and start there. And then if it really seems that intense, is it going to matter when I'm on my deathbed? No. Okay, well, let it go then.
Yeah. And what are you holding on to?
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much,
Yeah,
Drew.
man.
Woo,
I appreciate you. I'm so glad we got to
beautiful
get up.
Conversation.
Yeah.
And thank you guys for watching another episode of Chris Dyer's Creative Friends. And make sure to like, comment, share, etc. Subscribe. I love you, and I'll see you next time. Next episode, Michael Ian Cohen.
When you're living a life that is not satisfying because you feel like you're not where you want to be, whether you think that's because you're not making enough money, or you're not in the profession that you want to be in, or you're not at the level you want to be at in a given profession, whatever it is, when you feel like you're not satisfied with your life, it is really hard for a person like that to care about the lives of others. And even if they do, it's hard for them and less likely for them to actually take action to impact the lives of others in a positive way. It'll always be, once I get my shit figured out, then I'll help others. And so by helping people live a more fearless and fulfilling life, where they have more contentment, and it's more likely that those people will be in a position to want to and actually take action to impact the lives of the people around them, whether it's in their family and friends, their community, their state, their country, globally. And so there's a tremendous ripple effect in helping people not live fear-based lives.
So please make sure to subscribe, like, comment, and share. Big thanks, and see you next episode. Peace.